Hi, this is Bill. I am the Salty Old Marine. I'm going to add some more information to a previous video that I put out not too long ago about vet centers because I'm learning a lot more about vet centers and I wanted to share that information with you. So let's jump in. What's a vet center? Well, as it turns out, a vet center is part of the VA. So people who work for the VA Vet Center are in fact VA employees. But at the same time, it's not the same as the VA. And let me see if I can explain why. When I originally reached out to the VA for help with my PTSD, I went directly to the VA healthcare system, right? The VHA. And I asked for help and I got help. They brought me in and we had an intake and I met with some psychologists and they ran me through some tests and I was diagnosed with PTSD and they offered me some options for treatment and I took the prolonged exposure. I chose that. They offered me different choices. I took prolonged exposure therapy. It lasted for like 12 weeks or so. And then I took, and by the way, I keep calling it perpetual exposure. It's prolonged exposure, but you get the idea. And that didn't actually help me as much as I had hoped, but I didn't really know what I was supposed to get going in. It's all new to me, right? So after that, they offered me some group therapy. Most of this, by the way, was done via video. So I had a video connection through VA Video Connect, which is a cool tool. And I was able to attend it while at work. So I'd take my lunch hour and go do my VA therapy, and then I would do my homework, on my own time afterwards. And it was helpful too in its own way. So I did that, and then at the end of that, that was it. That was pretty much it. I was still working with a VA PTSD coordinator at the VA in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I was also working with a psychiatrist who prescribed me Prozocin, which I currently take for my nightmares. Not helping a great deal, but we have some follow-up sessions to talk about that. Not sure what we'll do there, but in any case, that's the current situation. But I needed some more help. I felt like I would benefit from continued therapy. And my coordinator at the VA suggested that I check out the Vet Center. I honestly didn't know what the Vet Center was and how it differed from the VA. As it turned out, there was a vet center near where I work, right down the street, in fact. And so I called them and I made an appointment, and I've had 2 intake sessions so far. And now we have scheduled some therapy, some regular 1-hour sessions. And I'm going to start by going in person because, as I mentioned, it's close to work. I can take it on my lunch hour and just come back to work afterwards. And I can't tell you a whole lot about how the therapy is going to go yet because obviously, other than the intake, I haven't started the therapy. But I can tell you what's different about the vet center, and it's really kind of wild, really. So the local vet center that I went to is almost like a drop-in center, something out of the 1970s, like a hippie hangout, only for veterans. And I mean this in the nicest possible way. They've got a lobby with a coffee machine and brochures and handouts and things like that. And these veterans come in and they just hang out and talk to each other. They have regular meetings, and there's a conference room in the back, and they can go back there. Now, I will say that most of them are older than me, which is old. So these guys are all like Vietnam veterans, right? I'm in my mid-60s. They are probably in their mid-70s, I'm guessing. But just a slightly different era than me. We're compatible with each other. We understand each other. But to them, I'm just a young punk. But they come in and they just talk with each other, and that's something the vet center actually offers them. That's amazing. That's cool. I didn't see that at the VA for healthcare. The VA is like a hospital. It's where you go to get health care, not to just sit around and chit chat. right? But the vet center offers that, and I thought that's amazing. That's great. In addition to that, I found out that if I wanted to, I could come in with my wife. My wife is not a veteran, but therapy might include couples therapy. It might include, if we wanted it, some therapy for the both of us. And the vet center offers that. Again, I was never offered anything like that through VA healthcare. So that's wild. That's amazing. That's different. And then finally, and this is just, I think, really, really important. When I went to the VA healthcare, right, every time I met with a counselor, every time I met with a therapist, they wrote things down. They took notes, right? Whenever they tested me for PTSD using the DSM-5 or whatever, all of that information went into my, what they call blue button report. So if I go to My Healthy Vet through the VA portal, I can pull down records of everything that my therapists wrote down. And by the way, they didn't always get it right. They didn't always write down exactly what we talked about. They were close sometimes, and sometimes they wrote down things I did not say. I don't think it was intentional. I just think there's errors that creep in. But in any case, it's always recorded and it's always in those VA records. If you file a VA disability claim, they're going to pull those records. So that's just part of it, right? VA healthcare is not VA disability. They're two different sides of the house, and they don't talk to each other than the fact that VA disability will read records that they can pull from VA healthcare, right? That's not your military service treatment record. That's your VA treatment record. Totally different thing, but still part of the federal government. At the vet center, however, your records are private. At least that's what I've been told. They do not show up in your blue button report. Is that good or is that bad? In my opinion, it's good. Why? Because when you're talking to your therapist, a VA therapist, you might say things, or they may intuit things, or they may say things in their notes that are not beneficial to your VA disability claim. I'm not saying that you want to hide information that's legitimate, but there are things that you might say to a therapist that you don't necessarily want in your VA disability claim. What am I talking about? Well, let's say that you were filing a claim for PTSD, and let's say that you suffered PTSD while you were in the military, so that's all legit, right? However, as part of your therapy, you talk to the therapist and you mention, right, that your dad used to beat you with a belt every day. That goes into the record. And that VA disability rater might look at that and say, yeah, you got PTSD all right, but it's not from the military, it's from your dad beating you with a belt every day. Is that wrong? Probably that is wrong, but it's in the record. Are you with me? That's why sometimes I talk about being careful about what you say to your VA therapist. Now, shift gears. Vet center. You say the same thing to your therapist at the vet center, and maybe they write that down. The rater won't see that unless you give it to them. Interesting. So in addition to your records not automatically appearing in My Healthy Vet in your blue button report, they also won't show up in any VA disability claims for good or for ill unless you put them there. And I talked to the vet center. What if I need those records? No problem, they said. If you want a copy of your record, you can ask for them anytime you like, and we'll give them to you. They don't upload them to the VA's health center. They don't go into your blue button report unless you put them there. They won't show up in a VA disability claim unless you upload them. And maybe after looking at them, you decide that that's not what you want to do. Just saying. So that can be very, very useful. Now, last item, last little tidbit, and I'm saving the best for last here. When I talk to my therapist at the VA Health Center, right, we never talk about disability because that's not what they do. They're there to try and make me healthy again, to make me feel better, and I thank them for that. But they have zero interest in VA disability, and so we don't talk about VA disability. The vet center will talk to you about VA disability. Not only will they talk to you about VA disability, they'll talk to you about how your symptoms may match up to various VA disabilities that you might be able to file for. And although they cannot write a nexus letter on your behalf, unfortunately, they can assist you by making a statement. And they are therapists. They are doctors in many cases. They are licensed. They can make statements that can be valuable in your VA disability claim. And the vet center is willing to do that. At least that's what I've been told. I find that information fascinating and positive. I'm looking forward to getting treatment through the vet center, and I really hope they can help me. I want to get better. That's the whole point. But if I ever need to file a claim, it's very useful for me to know that they're actually my advocates and they're on my side on this. That's pretty amazing. Let me know what your experience is with a vet center. This is Bill. I am the salty old Marine. Please like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, and as always, have a great day.